Welcome everyone to my review of Archie Sonic issue 29. Once again, the cover does not lie. Sally is getting roboticized this issue. Robotnik has made numerous attempts to roboticize the princess in the past, going as far back as the original miniseries, but he's been thwarted each and every time, whether it's by Sonic's hands, or just by swapping out the real Sally for a robotic duplicate. Well, it seems Sally's out of luck this time. However, if you've seen my reviews of issues set not long after this one, Sally's fine. So how did she get transformed into a robot and then back again? Let's find out. Before the story actually starts, there's a brief history about the Dragons of Mobius, how they once flew the skies until Robotnik captured and roboticized them all. Almost. One young dragon survived and has joined up with the Knothole Freedom Fighters, and thus we're introduced to Dulcie. The story proper begins with Sonic and Dulcie being chased by one of Robotnik's hovercrafts. Thanks to some fancy maneuvering, they tricked it into colliding with a cliffside. Sonic searches through the wreckage until he spots a glowing handheld device on the ground. At the same time in Robotropolis, Snively reports the hovercraft's crash, and Robotnik orders him to activate the self-destruct mechanism. It was carrying one of his portable de-roboticizers, and it could be bad for him if it fell into the wrong hands. Too late, Robotnik. That device is now in the hands of Sonic, who speeds away from the explosion. Back in Knothole, Rotor's able to determine that there is just enough power for the device to be used once. Sally suggests using it on Bunny, but she declines. Bunny instead proposes that one of them get turned into a robot so that they can damage Robotnik's operation from the inside, then use the de-roboticizer to return to normal. Sally's on board with this idea. In fact, she will be the one that will get roboticized. Later, as Sally prepares to get herself captured, the others voice their reservations about this plan, but Sally believes this is their best chance yet to cripple Robotnik. Rotor places a device called a neural override behind her ear. It will allow her to maintain her free will after being turned into a robot. Sally heads towards the outskirts of Robotropolis, where right away she is pursued and captured by SWAT bots. Off to the roboticizer for her. After some time passes, the rest of the team heads through a secret entrance to Robotnik's lair. Assuming everything went according to plan, the idea is for Sonic to distract the SWAT bots while Sally escapes, and rendezvous with the others so she can get de-roboticized back in Knothole. However, just as Sonic leaves to deal with the SWAT bots, Sally shows up without incident. That's odd. Sonic returns from his distraction run to find Sally holding a blaster at the Freedom Fighters while Robotnik and Snively watch. This is not a last-minute scheme Sally's pulling, she's really under Robotnik's control. What happened was during robotization, the neural override fell off, and Robotnik came up with his own plan to capture the rest of the Freedom Fighters. He demands to know the whereabouts of his de-roboticizer before deciding to just say screw it and throw them into the roboticizers. Yeah, looks like it's game over for our heroes. Robotnik, though, did not count on a large green dragon flying to Robotropolis when her friends did not return that evening. She even brought the de-roboticizer with her just in case things went badly, which they did. She zaps Sally back to normal before she can activate the roboticizer, then fries the console along with Robotnik and Snively. With the situation resolved, Sally apologizes that she couldn't get the job done, but Sonic says it's all cool. The only reason they survived is because Dulcie got Robotnik all fired up. Yeah, I'm terrible. The second story is part 2 of Tails' lead up to his miniseries, but since I will cover it along with part 1 when I get to the miniseries review, we'll just move on to the next section. A number of you watching may already know who Dulcie the Dragon is and where she originated from, but for those who don't, here's a brief explanation. Dulcie debuted in Season 2 of the Sonic Saturday Young cartoon series. Her presence gave the Freedom Fighters a means to fly to different locations, and to give them some extra firepower. I'm serious. That console she melted in this story, she can do that in the cartoon. She also has other elemental abilities like electricity, air, and ice powers. That is in the cartoon. She might have those same abilities in the comics, I haven't had a chance to look it up yet. Despite being introduced in this issue, she'll only make the occasional appearance here and there throughout the series. The dragon backstory in the beginning is taken from the cartoon as well. At this point in the Sonic comic series, the tone is much more aligned with Sonic SatAM. Thus, it makes more sense to include elements from that cartoon. You might even say, the story itself could be considered an episode of the show in comic form, one that doesn't borrow plot ideas from other episodes. Our heroes trying to sabotage Robotnik from the inside was a risky gambit, one they, unfortunately, lose this time. And that's only because the neural override device wasn't secure on Sally. The idea of the neural override itself. The issue says it can allow one to maintain free will after robotization. I assume it means it only works with someone who is undergoing the robotization process and not someone who's already roboticized. Otherwise, Sonic would be zipping around Robotropolis planting these things on Robotnik's victims, including Uncle Chuck and Mutsky. This is not a one-off device. We will see it again in a future issue. What is a one-off device, at least as far as I can remember at this time, is the portable de-roboticizer. I'd figure Robotnik would have some lying around for just-in-case situations, and that they'd be in secure locations. Why else would he be panicking about the freedom fighters getting a hold of one? The only reason they have it in the first place is because the hovercraft that was carrying it spotted Sonic and Dulcie. So this one's on you, Robotnik. You just had to install the Hedgehog Priority 1 protocol in all of your robots. Final score for this story is a 9 out of 10. This is a definite win for Angelo in the writing department, and Art's art is great as always. While I can guess where the story would go between the cover and the appearance of the de-roboticizer, I really enjoyed how they got there. That's right, I like the story in which the Freedom Fighters failed in their mission, and the only reason they survived today is because they were smart enough to leave the de-roboticizer behind, and Dulcie coming to their rescue. It shows that, every once in a while, the heroes can get the proverbial bloody nose. The design of roboticized Sally looks pretty cool too, or as Robotnik calls her, 3390. Personally, I would have chosen something like Mecha Sally myself, but I think the reason Robotnik went with this numerical designation is to show that this once daughter of a king, and a strong leader of the resistance group, has been reduced to just a mere robotic servant. It's a funny coincidence that there were 2 stories in a row featuring Robotnik using a member of the team against the others. Now I can imagine what would happen if Robotnik decided to roboticize a vulnerable Sonic instead of just manipulating him to do his bidding. Actually, I don't have to imagine. That happens 10 issues later. The Freedom Fighters' infiltration plan may have failed, but they will get their roboticized insider soon enough. And it's an old friend too. I'll see you in issue 30 for the return of Uncle Chuck. Boy, that was a close call. I hope Sally never has to be put in a situation where she ends up roboticized again.